Improvements in DNA technology led to an arrest in a 32-year-old sexual assault cold case from Charlotte, North Carolina. Back in 1993 and 1994, two separate sexual assaults happened in the Charlotte area. The first assault took place on July 22, 1993, when a victim reported being sexually assaulted by an unknown person in the Providence Division. The victim went through a rape kit examination at Carolina's Medical Center. The second incident happened about a year later on August 25, 1994, when another victim was attacked while walking on a wooded path in the same division. The police were called, and the victim was taken to the hospital, where she also got a rape kit examination after the attack. At the time of these assaults, the detectives worked really hard to identify the suspect, but they couldn't. DNA technology was still in its early stages, and the limits in forensic testing during this time often meant that important biological evidence couldn't be fully tested. The case went cold for decades. More than 3 decades later, cold case detectives eventually picked up the case. Through federal funding, the detectives were able to submit DNA samples for retesting, and 55-year-old Dulaine Lotharp was successfully identified as a suspect in both cases. On August 30, 2025, CMPD served Lotharp with his outstanding warrants. He was taken to the custody of the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. According to records from the Department of Public Safety, he was released earlier in the day from prison after spending more than 34 years behind bars. He was classified as a habitual felon under state law and found guilty of multiple breaking and entering and robbery charges. Lotharp faces multiple charges, including 3 counts of first-degree sexual assault, 2 counts of first-degree kidnapping, common law robbery, and communicating threats. He is currently in the custody of the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office under a $300,000 bond. The investigation into this case is active and ongoing. Anyone with more information about the case should contact Charlotte Crime Stoppers through their website. Tips can be submitted anonymously. A suspect has been arrested after a man was gunned down outside his Philadelphia, Pennsylvania home in what the police described as a mob-style murder more than 26 years ago. On the night of April 10, 1999, Guarino Gino Marconi and his girlfriend, 31-year-old Patricia Miley, were both shot by an attacker with a rifle who confronted them outside Gino's home on the 2400 block of South 20th Street in South Philadelphia. Gino was shot once in the head, and Patricia was shot 3 times during the attack. Patricia was critically injured but survived the shooting. Gino was taken to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Before running away from the scene, the gunman set fire to a van that was parked in front of Gino's home and set other vehicles on fire. A reason for the shooting was not immediately disclosed. Gino, who grew up in South Philadelphia, owned an auto body shop in South Philly at the time of his death, and Patricia worked as a billing clerk for a Philadelphia law firm. At the time of the attack, 42-year-old Gino was described in media reports as a low-level associate of Joseph Salvatore Skinny Joey Merlino, a then reputed boss of the Philadelphia crime family. Despite all effort, the killer could not be identified, and the case went cold. 26 years later, on August 25, 2025, 60-year-old Richard Lady was arrested at his home in South Philadelphia, which is about a block from where the fatal shooting of Gino happened. It was unclear if Lady was living at the same place when Gino's life was ended. Lady was arraigned on the charges on August 26, but did not enter a plea. Details of what led the investigators to arrest Lady in this cold case were not immediately disclosed. Preliminary hearing in the case was scheduled for September 15, which according to court documents was Lady's 61st birthday. According to the documents filed in Philadelphia Federal Court, Lady is charged with murder, attempted murder, and possession of a prohibited firearm. He is also charged with simple assault, recklessly endangering another person, possession of an instrument of crime with intent, and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Lady is being held in federal custody without bail. For more than 3 decades, the identity of a woman found dead in a wooded area of North Houston, Texas, remained a mystery. Known only as a Jane Doe, her story had no name until a breakthrough finally came. On September 8, 1992, female remains were discovered in an overgrown field off West Rittenhouse Road in North Houston. The body was discovered by a neighbor who often searched the vacant lot for thrown-away items. The once empty lot is now occupied by a church. The Harris County Medical Examiner determined that the victim was beaten to death. The cause of death was blunt force trauma. Her body was badly decomposed and no weapon was ever found. For 33 years, she remained unknown and she was buried in the Harris County Cemetery marked as unknown. Efforts to identify her at the time were unsuccessful and her case remained cold. That changed earlier in 2025 thanks to improvements in forensic genealogy and the help of Othram Forensic Investigations, a nonprofit specializing in such cases. DNA was taken from her remains and was sent for further testing. That testing, paired with family tree research, confirmed her identity as Joanne Zamora. She was a mother of 6. Sergeant Richard Rodriguez said that the breakthrough allows the detectives to look at the case again. He said, "Now that we have identified her, the first thing we are going to do is create what we call victimology. We need to know who she was, what she was doing, who she was with, what connections she had. That is one of the biggest things we have to do right now in order to rebuild her life back then." Rodriguez said that there are currently no suspects in the case. He noted that Joanne's relationships at the time will be a focus of the investigation, especially since she was never reported missing. He said, "That to me is very suspicious. It kind of leads me to believe that whoever was with her maybe did something and did not want anybody to know." The news came with mixed emotions. According to Joanne's daughter, Spencer Graham, Spencer was only 2 years old when her mother disappeared. Spencer said, "I finally have answers that I never thought I would have, but then it leads to more questions." Spencer said that she and her 5 siblings grew up believing that their mother had abandoned them. Joanne was supposed to visit for Easter in 1992, but never showed up. They grew up believing that their mother just left, that she could not be a mom anymore. Spencer said that they were not living with her at the time, and her boyfriend called them and said that she took off with his car, money, and camera. So that is what they believed. Recently, they learned everything they knew was wrong. Joanne lost her life sometime before her 29th birthday. That call turned out to be the last trace of Joanne. No missing persons report was ever filed. Spencer Graham and her family, now adults, are holding on to hope for justice. More than 4 decades after the disappearance of a Josephine County woman, a man has been returned to Oregon to face a charge connected to this long unsolved case. Teresa Peroni was 27 years old when she disappeared after attending a party on July 4, 1983 in Selma, Oregon. Witnesses said that Teresa was last seen walking into the woods with her 29-year-old boyfriend, Mark Sanfilippo. The pair had a fight at the party. The argument was apparently over Teresa having another lover. She and her boyfriend went into the woods at 1270 Illinois River Road, and Teresa never returned. An investigation was started soon after her family reported her missing. Despite the sheriff's office determining that her disappearance was suspicious in nature, the Josephine County District Attorney's Office determined there was not enough evidence to file charges. At the time, a body was not found. For 14 years, Teresa's disappearance remained cold until a human skull was found on a nearby property in 1997. A search with a cadaver dog did not find any other human remains, and the skull was sent for DNA testing through the University of North Texas. The case went cold again. In 2024, more than 4 decades after she went missing, the Josephine County Sheriff's Office reopened the case of Teresa's disappearance. The investigators re-interviewed witnesses, collected new DNA evidence, and used modern forensic testing to get new evidence. The investigators were able to determine that the skull found in 1997 was Teresa's. On June 27, 2025, a grand jury charged 72-year-old Mark Sanfilippo with second-degree murder. He was arrested in Chico, California the following day on June 28. He had his first court appearance in Oregon on July 16 when he was arraigned in Josephine County Circuit Court. The case will be handled by the Oregon Department of Justice's Criminal Division. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said, "What happened to Teresa Peroni left her family with decades of uncertainty and grief." He added, "While the legal process is now underway, and it is important not to prejudge its outcome, this arrest reflects the progress that is possible when law enforcement agencies persist and evolve with new tools. It is a powerful reminder that time does not erase the need for answers." The investigators continue to seek information from anyone who may have attended the party near Illinois River Road in July of 1983. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact the Josephine County Sheriff's Office. An elderly couple was brutally murdered in their home in 2020. 5 years after the crime took place, 4 suspects have been arrested. On August 3, 2020, 72-year-old Cheryl Newsom and 72-year-old Troy Bennett were found dead in their home in Mitchell, Warren County, Georgia. There was evidence to show that a home invasion had occurred. Cheryl was a retired nurse, and Troy was a veteran and retired firefighter. The GBI initially listed both Cheryl and Troy as unsolved cases and offered a reward for information leading to an arrest and prosecution. For several years, the case remained cold while the GBI kept an open investigation. On August 14, 2023, the GBI Cold Case Unit received a Coleman Baker Act application from Cheryl and Troy's family requesting a review of the case. The GBI again publicly asked for tips in the case, and local news outlets periodically ran features to keep the story in the public eye. In August 2025, the GBI announced a major development. After review by the Cold Case Unit investigators, 4 suspects from the Thompson area were arrested and charged in connection with the 2020 case. GBI agents and Warren County Sheriff's Office deputies have charged Randy Hall, age 39, Laura Thornton, age 34, Chance McKenna, age 21, and a minor with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of armed robbery, and 1 count of first-degree burglary in connection with the case. Hall and Thornton were booked into the McDuffie County Jail. McKenna is currently in custody in the Georgia Department of Corrections. 8 years after a young man from Magna, Utah was fatally shot, new DNA technology has led the investigators to a suspect. On February 11, 2016, Unified Police were sent to a possible dead body found by hikers near a trail by Saltaire. When the police arrived, they found a dead male in his 20s wearing jeans, a gray sweatshirt, and dark-colored shoes. The investigators noted that the victim, who was later identified by a wallet found on the body, had a gunshot wound to the right cheek and another to the left chest area. He was identified as 22-year-old Chandler Michael Cooper, who lived in the Holiday Mill Creek area. The investigators recovered 2 shell casings at the scene, but they did not find the gun or any cell phone. On Chandler's body, the detectives said that they found Jolly Rancher and now and later candy wrappers in his pockets. In the area, the police found an e-cigarette and an unwrapped, partially eaten green Jolly Rancher. The investigators believe that someone drove Chandler to that location where he was basically executed. Chandler had several run-ins with the law during his young adult life, mostly due to drug use and possession. Unfortunately, no arrests were made, and the case went cold for years. In 2023, 7 years later, Detective Brandon Moore was promoted to the Unified Police Department Cold Case Squad. He made it his mission to find the person or persons responsible for ending Chandler's life. He says that having a fresh set of eyes on the files paired with advances in technology has left him feeling cautiously optimistic about solving Chandler's case. He said not only for him but his mom, he has got a mom. He was living with his grandmother. There are people that cared about this person, and to go 8 years with this being unsolved, I cannot imagine how that weighs on a family. Detective Moore asked that the public think back to the case and let him know if they remember any helpful information. He also wants the suspects to know that Chandler's death has not been forgotten. Detective Brandon Moore said in 2016 he was shot twice, once in the face and once in the chest, and then left there. Regardless of the crowd he was running with, I mean it is someone that did not deserve to be murdered. In 2024, the Unified Police announced that they had new leads in the case thanks to DNA evidence. On September 11, 2025, 38-year-old Castile Franklin Hamlet was arrested for investigation of alleged murder, a first-degree felony, aggravated robbery, a first-degree felony, and obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony. Throughout the course of the investigation, the detectives learned that Chandler, along with Castile, Slim, Hamlet, and GP, were going to commit a robbery. 2 people had been identified as targets for this robbery. The first target identified as JM, a local drug dealer who had at the time won a large Super Bowl bet worth thousands of dollars. JM, happy about his big win, then began to send texts with pictures of his winnings to his friends. On February 9, 2016, JM threw a party to celebrate his winnings. The second targeted victim, identified as WN, was a self-proclaimed middleman drug dealer who was believed to be dealing large amounts of marijuana and also believed to have cash. A plan was being made by Chandler, Hamlet, and GP to rob the 2 men. Hamlet traveled to Chandler's house, picked him up, and the 2 hung out for several hours on February 9th. That evening, Hamlet dropped Chandler off at his home and went to JM's house to attend the party, where he told WN about Chandler's plan to rob him. The detectives said that Hamlet later admitted to the investigators that he was playing both sides. During this party, there was a lot of conversation about the Chandler problem. Through interviews and other investigative means, it was learned that the group had talked about beating up Chandler, kidnapping him, and dropping him off halfway to Wendover and breaking his leg and even killing him. At 12:50 a.m. on February 10, 2016, Hamlet went to pick up Chandler. For approximately the next 3 hours, there was no phone activity from either Hamlet or Chandler. Chandler was never seen alive again after the pickup. Hamlet later went to an acquaintance's home in Ogden. The person said that Hamlet arrived in a panic and was acting crazy. He took his and the person's cell phone and removed the battery. The person said that Hamlet then turned the music up, went into a side room, and closed the door. The person also said that Hamlet told them that he killed Chandler Cooper, that he had shot him out near Saltaire, and then buried the gun near 7200 West and Interstate 80. The person said that Hamlet also said that he burned the clothes he was wearing. The police also noted that after Chandler was killed, Hamlet's cell phone came on in the same area as Chandler's cell phone. Chandler's cell phone only connects to the network for a moment before never again being seen on the network. The detectives questioned Hamlet in 2016, and he admitted to being part of the robbery and to playing both sides, the affidavit states, but he claimed he later dropped off Chandler at an apartment complex. Last year, Chandler's jeans and jacket that he was wearing when his body was found were sent to the Utah State Crime Lab to have the pockets swabbed for DNA. The 2 jacket pockets and 2 front jeans pockets were swabbed by the Utah State Crime Lab, and information came back that there were 2 to 3 DNA contributors inside of Chandler's pockets. The detectives then got DNA samples from Hamlet to compare it to the DNA found. The Utah State Crime Lab stated that the DNA analysis provides support that Castile Hamlet is a contributor to the DNA mixture obtained from swabs of the inside left jacket pocket. Additionally, Chandler's cousin told the police that after Chandler was shot in the leg in a 2015 incident, he told the cousin that he believed Hamlet would kill him soon. Chandler said he had to do what Hamlet said, or Hamlet would also kill his grandmother, whom he lived with. Chandler believed that it was not a matter of if Hamlet would kill him, but when. When the investigators searched Chandler's room, they found sticky notes talking about how he would lose his life, and that he wanted to leave all of his belongings to his grandmother, aunt, and uncle. 38-year-old Castile Slim Franklin Hamlet was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail. He's being held without bail. He also is being held for violation of parole or probation, as he was awaiting trial at the time that Chandler was shot. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill said, "We appreciate the patience of the victim's family, as this case was put together over the last 9 years. The wheels of justice may move slowly sometimes, but this office will push them forward to pursue accountability for the victims in our community and their loved ones." A scuba diver found a vehicle underwater in the Ohio River with human remains inside. It is believed that the remains might be linked to a missing persons case in Kentucky from 2006. On September 12, 2025, around 10:00 a.m., a scuba diver spotted a van in the Ohio River near a boat ramp off Dyke Lane in Morganfield. The person immediately contacted the officials, and when the van was pulled from the river, human remains were found inside. Following the discovery, the investigators worked on processing the vehicle. The remains, which have not yet been identified, were then sent to the state medical examiner's office for further examination. The investigators believe that the discovery may be connected to a Union County man who was reported missing in 2006. James Michael Mills was 38 years old when he was last seen at his home in Uniontown at 5:30 p.m. on January 16, 2006. James' missing persons report shows that in 2006, he was driving a white van with a door that had been painted white with blue showing through. On the van recovered from the river, the driver's side door of the van appears to be blue, while the rest of the van is white. Although the remains found have not yet been identified, Kelly Farmer, James' cousin, told the outlet that the discovery brought up mixed emotions for the family. She said, "It is sad because his mom passed away not knowing what happened to him. Just the peace that came over us, just knowing that we could finally bring him home." She continued, "He was not forgotten. If he was ever to show up, I just wanted him to know we did not forget about him." The prime suspect in a 23-year-old cold case has been arrested after being caught at a traffic stop in Ohio. 52-year-old Juan Carlos Munoz has been wanted by the Ashtabula County Sheriff's Office in Ohio for failure to appear on kidnapping and gross sexual imposition charges since January 11, 2002. A warrant was issued for his arrest, but they never managed to catch him. In 2025, the U.S. Marshals Service, along with the Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force, took over the search for Munoz. An in-depth investigation into his whereabouts was launched, and on September 11th, members of the Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force positively identified Munoz getting into a vehicle and driving away from a location they were watching for him. Later, the Lake County Sheriff's Office pulled over Munoz for a traffic violation, which is when Munoz gave a fake Ohio ID and claimed to be another man. After a quick investigation and a collection of fingerprints, the federal officers confirmed that the driver was indeed Munoz. He was arrested and booked at the Lake County Jail to await being sent back to Ashtabula County. U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott said in a statement, "After 23 years of evading arrest, our task force arrested this deceptive and dangerous fugitive. This fugitive went to extreme lengths to avoid being arrested, including assuming another identity over 20 years ago, and has been living under that fake name all this time. The investigation is currently ongoing."